Hello and welcome to another Writerly Witterings. Today we have the joy of a day of miserable weather outside. It is raining, it is grey, it's grim, there's no light coming into the house at all from outside, and it's basically foul and disgusting. I'm not taking the dogs out in this sort of weather, so they can wait till a bit later. But I promised today that I would talk a bit about typewriters. So let's get on with it. As we all know, I am a Jex who has a great fondness for fountain pens and just writing straight onto paper. And I must just say, this Oxford paper, Nemesign paper, is absolutely wonderful. But I cannot write novels on paper. It takes too long. Anyone who's been watching my recent videos will know that the thing I really like is to have this, which is an Astra House FreeWrite, which is basically a keyboard and a screen. And as you type, things come up on the screen. Isn't it clever? What is really nice though with this is simply that it's got a really superb keyboard, and everything you type Wi-Fi's through, so that I can call everything up straight into whatever editor I'm using. Usually that will be working straight onto Scrivener, because for aspiring writers or just people at university trying to work, Scrivener is fantastic. It is the Rolls-Royce of all word processing packages for novelists or anybody who's got to write a really long document. Forget Word, Scrivener is far better. But I promised today I'd talk about other things that were older. So let's put that aside and look at the precursor to the AstroWrite FreeHouse. And here we have an astonishingly dusty box. For those who can read it, at the top there it says Mr. and Mrs. R.G. Jex in Surrey. Sadly, they're both dead now, so it doesn't matter me putting that on the internet. Still, it shows where I got this from originally. This was part of my massive inheritance. Now, the clever thing about old-fashioned typewriters was they always came with these robust boxes with a handle so you could carry them around, and when you undid them, there was the miraculous thing beneath. So what do you got here? You've got a little bar here that holds your sheet of paper down. You've got rollers at either side so you can advance the paper or disadvance it. These two knobs here set the margins. Clever stuff. There's also a bar here so that as you're typing, your bit of paper doesn't fall over the back. Isn't that neat? This is the Carriage Return. After you finish each line, you put the Carriage Return across, and then as you type, it goes along letter by letter. And basically all you do is you type on it. Isn't that a clever thing? Sometimes you might need to change the ribbons, because these work on carbon ribbons, and the carbon is held on this fabric ribbon, and when you hit that ribbon with a key, it deposits the carbon onto the page behind you. This, I notice, is not in the right place. That should be going down over that feed there. That's better. You can get these typewriters of all types. Some of them have a switch like this. It's on black now, and if you flick the switch up, it goes to red. And what used to happen was you could have ribbons that had two halves. One half was red carbon, one half was black carbon. So you could type up red and black. That was advanced stuff. So let's just get a bit of paper and stick it in, and we'll have a look at things. Okay, so here's a sheet of paper. How do you load it? Well, you put it Okay, here's my sheet of paper. How do you load it? Well, you put it into the gap there, turn the dial, lift that, and then as soon as it's in the place where you want to start writing, there you go. So let's just say I'm doing a I'll apologise now. This is not coming out very clearly because my desk is slightly more flexible than I realised and it's bouncing. Quick slurp of tea. Right, that's a bit better. Right, little bell tells me I've got to the end of that line. Now, let's just have a look at what I've done. So I've typed up my name. Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this, and I would carry on. But the nice thing about this is it's only quite light. It weighs kilo perhaps, so it's about the same weight as a modern computer. Would it ever replace a modern computer? I have to admit, I've used various different typewriters in my time. I started out life as a salesman of office automation, selling word processors and microcomputers back in the early 80s. And trying to lug around an Apple IIe was not easy because you had a keyboard and the computer base, you had a TV screen that was cathode ray tube, and you had 2 floppy diskette drives, no hard disks in those days. So if you wanted to carry those things around, it was next to impossible. This was infinitely more practical, although you had to carry paper with you. I went to start writing in about 1986-87, I think, when I was on holiday in Devon. And I had an idea about a book, and I wanted to write it, so I borrowed a typewriter that was a modern typewriter with daisy wheels, so didn't have all of the different keys. It was that bit lighter. It just had a daisy wheel, and a hammer would strike the relevant letter onto the line as you were working. The great thing about that was it had a single line display, so you could type up your line, go back and edit that line, press print, and it would print that line, and then you typed up the next line. Just think about that. It was god-awful. It was slow. It was just appalling. I never managed to type anything more than 2 pages at a time because it was just such a cumbersome approach. This, on the other hand, I could imagine sitting by the seaside or in a cafe or anywhere else and typing with this for quite some time because the keys are slower to use than something like a FreeWrite. Typing on this is just a breeze. It's so easy, and I love the feel of individually sprung keys. It is so much better than a standard keyboard on a modern computer. But if my FreeWrite ran out of battery and I had real problems trying to use any other type of computer, this is the sort of thing I would go to, I reckon. I could use this much more happily than I could, say, writing a book with pen and paper. I love pen and paper. I plan all my books, I plot them, I write characters down with pens. But actually writing an entire book, as those who will know if they've looked at my past videos, I've tried it, and for me it doesn't work. It's just too slow. I think part of the difference is... Hang about, you're not focusing, that's better. I think part of the difference is that when you're writing on paper with a pen, for me as a professional writer, I can't see how the story's progressing. By that I mean, if I look at a page printed with words on it from a computer or from a typewriter, I get an impression about the speed that the story's developing across that page. When it's my handwriting, I'm never exactly sure how much of the page that handwriting's going to fill. I mean, with a standard page typed or on a computer, you're looking at about 330 words per page. Great. So I can break that down into paragraphs, I can see exactly how the story's growing. With handwriting I can't do that, and I think that's part of the reason why I had to give up in the end, because I was finding I was writing 10, 15, 20 pages longhand, and I still had no impression, no real feel about how that story was developing, which is a bit odd. So, would I be happy to return to using a typewriter like this? Yes, I would. I've actually got two typewriters. I have the one I mentioned before, which has the single line display and uses daisy wheels. That's still a perfectly good typewriter, so long as I don't try to use the word processing element, the one line display. If I just type on it, straight onto paper, then it works a great deal more efficiently for me. This is really good because it's so compact and so neat. Another one I've got is a more robust version, which is about 50% wider and 50% deeper and considerably more heavy, which is great, but is not as good as this because this has that benefit of portability. And, of course, no need for electricity, no need for anything at all. You just type straight on the keys because the keys are just activated by your fingers and nothing else. Now, I actually made this video because I had a number of people ask me when I was talking about typewriters and the free write. They're saying, well, how does the typewriter work? And so that was the motivation for making this video. I hope it was interesting. Anyway, that's your lot for now. Hope that was fun. I'm now going to go and start preparing for 2 meetings, and which will be over by the time you see this video, by the way. But that's all for now. So if you want to help support this site, go down to the bottom. There's a link to Patreon. If you enjoyed this video but you've got comments to make, there's a comment section down the bottom. If you really like this video and my other ones, hit the subscribe button. There's a bell button beside it. Hit that and then you'll be notified when next videos come out. And share it, like it, all those good things. And apart from that, I'll see you soon. Take care. I'm going to finish my cup of tea again now. Thanks a lot. Cheers.